Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name's Frank, and let me tell you something straight off the bat. Sometimes being a stepfather is a thankless job. That might sound harsh, but if you've ever walked in those shoes, you know exactly what I mean. You give your time, your energy, your money, your love, and sometimes it just doesn't come back the way you hoped. You try to fill a space that was left by someone else, thinking that love and consistency will be enough. But sometimes it isn't. I came to this realization on Christmas night, right there at the dinner table, surrounded by family. That's when I got up and made decisions that would shock everyone at that table. When I first met Sophia, the woman who later became my wife, she struck me as one of those people who had ambition. Back then, I had no reason to think she was hiding anything. To me, she was single, independent, and figuring out life like the rest of us. We started going out and slowly getting to know each other. I felt myself falling for her in a way words can't describe. But here's what I didn't know at the time. Sophia was already a mother. She had a daughter, Kara, who was 4 years old and living in another city with her grandparents. Sophia didn't tell me about her daughter in the beginning. And I'm not going to pretend I wasn't a little taken aback when I eventually found out. She visited her when she could, but Kara wasn't part of her daily life at that point. Sophia later opened up one night when we were talking about our pasts. She told me she got pregnant in her late teens. It was for a boy she had loved deeply at the time, someone she thought would be her forever. But when she told him she was pregnant, he flat out denied it, said it couldn't be his. That crushed her. Eventually, he came around and accepted that Kara was his child, but by then, Sophia had already seen too much. The guy was always in and out of trouble. Nothing about him screamed, responsible father. She said she didn't want that kind of man near her daughter, not if she could help it. I sat there listening to her story, and honestly, I didn't see her as a woman with baggage. I saw her as someone who had survived something hard. Her story made me feel something deeper, not just for her, but for her daughter, too. I told her that night that if this was going to be serious between us, then I wouldn't just be with her. I'd be stepping into the role of someone who's there for Kara, too. I meant that. Looking back, I didn't fully understand what it would mean to take in someone else's child as your own, but I made that choice because I loved Sophia, and I believed that a child born out of a hard story deserved a soft landing in life. I accepted her. I accepted Kara. And in my heart, that meant something. I just didn't know yet what it would eventually cost me. After Sophia and I got married, I asked for Kara, her daughter, to be with us, under the same roof. Sophia thought about it and agreed. So we made arrangements, and Kara came to live with us permanently. Those early days were good. At that point, Kara was our only child, and I genuinely poured myself into fatherhood. I knew I didn't share her blood, but that never mattered to me. From the moment she started living with us, I treated her like she was mine. I wanted her to feel safe, loved, and chosen. 2 years later, Sophia and I had a child together, Kara's younger sister. You'd think that might change the dynamics, but I made a very conscious decision that it wouldn't. From the very start, I was intentional about one thing. Both girls would get equal love from me. So, whether it was birthdays, bedtime stories, school events, or just sitting around the dinner table, I made sure Kara never felt like she was being replaced or pushed aside. To me, they were both my daughters. Back then, we weren't rich, but we were comfortable enough. And even with that, I understood something really clearly. Time moves fast, and college sneaks up on you quicker than you think. Tuition fees aren't getting any cheaper, and the last thing I wanted was for either of the girls to start their adult life buried in debt, just because we didn't plan ahead. That's when I made the decision to start a college fund. I didn't tell Sophia, my wife. I opened 2 separate accounts, one for Kara and one for my biological daughter. I put the same amount into each fund every month, as much as I could manage. With time, interest, and consistency, it added up. When Kara started hitting her teenage years, her attitude changed. She wasn't the same little girl who used to run to the door when I got back from work or sit beside me during movies. At first, I chalked it up to normal teenage behavior and a phase. I kept reminding her in little ways that I was still here. Then one day, I found out the real reason. She had been in contact with her biological father. I didn't find this out from her. I had to hear it through a roundabout way, and when I confronted Sophia about it, she told me the truth. She said Kara's father had somehow gotten her number and reached out. According to Sophia, he said he wanted to be part of Kara's life again. He wanted to build a relationship. When I asked why no one told me, Sophia gave me that look. She said she didn't feel it was her place to say no, that he was still her father, and maybe it would do Kara some good to know him. That explanation didn't sit right with me. I felt like I had been pushed to the side. It hurt more than I can explain, but I didn't argue. I just nodded and walked away. From then on, Kara grew colder. I didn't want to be the guy who overreacted, who took things personally when he shouldn't. So I kept loving her. I still paid attention to the things she liked, got her what she needed, helped with school, and kept her tutor going. I never once treated her less than her younger sister. I kept believing that one day she'd see I was still the same man who opened his heart to her all those years ago, before she even knew what the word dad was supposed to feel like. For Kara's 17th birthday, I spent weeks thinking about the right gift. And after weighing the options, I decided to buy her a brand new Honda Civic. It wasn't the flashiest car on the market, but it was dependable, affordable to maintain, and safe. I figure it was the perfect first car for a teenager heading off to college soon. I even picked a sleek silver color, paid for the insurance in advance, and got her name put on it properly. But the second she saw the car, her face dropped. No, thank you. Just a tight-lipped, unimpressed look like someone had handed her a used pair of shoes. Then she asked, "Where's the Benz?" At first, I thought she was joking. But she was dead serious. See, months before her birthday, she had pointed out a Mercedes-Benz GLC 300 on her phone and casually said that was her dream car. But I never imagined she'd expect me to buy her a luxury vehicle, especially not at 17. I calmly explained to her that a Mercedes was not only expensive to buy, but also costly to maintain, insure, and repair. The Civic, on the other hand, was known for reliability. It would last her years without breaking the bank. I even told her I had test-driven it myself and made sure it was comfortable and fuel-efficient. But none of that mattered to her. From that day on, she carried that moment like a grudge. No matter what I did after, it always came back to that car. I brought it up with her mother, Sophia, hoping she'd see how the disrespect was growing. I told her the reaction to the gift really hurt me. Sophia just shrugged and said, "She's a teenager. Don't let it worry you." But it did worry me. And no matter how many other things I did for her, she never let it go. As she began keeping late nights, I tried to talk to her seriously about staying out late because I was just concerned. I told her, "Hey, I know you're getting older, but please let us know where you are. It's not safe out there at night." But she looked at me like I was overreacting and said, "You're always trying to control my life." Then she walked out. Another day, I brought up how she was following and hanging around a group of guys who had a reputation. I just said, "Be careful with who you associate with. Not everyone has good intentions." She didn't take it as a concern. Instead, she hit me with, "Why do you even care? You're not even my real father." That one hit different. That sentence felt like it stripped me of every moment I'd ever shared with her. But even that wasn't the worst of it. There was one night I'll never forget, during a small argument here and there. This time, she had lied about where she was and came home well past midnight. When I confronted her, she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Even my real father doesn't act all-knowing like you do. You're doing a little too much for a stepfather." That sentence cracked something deep in me. In that moment, I was just a stepfather trying too hard. And Sophia, her mother, did nothing. She just stood there. She didn't tell Kara she was out of line. That silence said more than any insult ever could. It was the first time I realized I was fighting for a family alone. Time really flew, and Kara went off to college. Despite everything that had happened over the years, a part of me still held on to hope that a little distance would give her time to reflect. I didn't stop caring about her just because she started acting like I didn't matter. That's not how I'm wired. When Christmas rolled around and she came back home for the holidays, I saw it as an opportunity. I remember she had casually mentioned this designer bag once, just in passing. So I tracked it down, bought it, and wrapped it carefully. Not just the bag. I also wrote a card from me to her. I signed it, "Dad." Because, despite everything, I still wanted to be that for her. I thought this small gesture could spark something. I was wrong. Dinner that night started off like any other holiday meal. The food was great, everyone was relaxed, and for a while, it felt like things were okay. We laughed. We passed dishes around the table. It almost felt like the old days before everything got complicated. Then her aunt, Sophia's younger sister, smiled and said, "These girls are lucky to have such a great dad." Now, I didn't expect anything, but what came next knocked the breath out of me. Kara let out this loud, dismissive snort. Didn't even look up from her plate. And then she said it. "Some people aren't worth calling dad." The room went dead silent. I felt this pressure in my chest, like someone had just jabbed a knife between my ribs and twisted it slowly. Sophia looked down like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Our younger daughter looked from me to her sister, clearly confused. That was the moment I realized that all my effort I spent being there for her, like a real father, never mattered to her. I just smiled. Then I got up slowly from the table. I walked over to the Christmas tree, picked up the gift I had bought her, and tucked it under my arm. And then I looked her in the eyes and said calmly, "Don't touch any of the gifts I gave you over the years, including the car." I added, "And I just canceled your college fund. Good luck." Then I turned around and walked away. She thought I was bluffing, but I wasn't. That night, after the Christmas dinner blow-up, I went back to my bedroom and logged into Kara's college fund. And I redirected every single dollar, all $120,000, into the fund I had for my younger daughter instead. After that, I blocked Kara on everything. Not because I wanted to be petty, but because I had nothing left to say. If she ever needed answers, she could talk to her mother. I made that choice with a clear head. Sometimes silence is louder than words. By the time I woke up the next morning, she had packed her things and left for her biological dad's house. I was told she had a lot to say, though. Apparently, I was controlling, manipulative, and trying too hard to be something I wasn't. She didn't just burn the bridge. She tried to blow it up on the way out. I didn't respond. That part of me that used to worry, that used to care, had gone quiet. Sophia, her mother, didn't say anything for a few days. I could feel the tension around the house. Then one evening, she finally spoke. Tried to guilt-trip me. Said, "You can't give up on her." I looked her in the eye and calmly said, "She gave up on me first." I just finally heard her loud and clear. Sophia kept pushing, asking how I could do this, asking what kind of example I was setting. That's when I stopped her and said, "Do you want to join her? Because I've watched you, and you don't talk to her when you should. You stay quiet when you need to speak. You let her disrespect me in front of you and say nothing." She didn't say another word. It had been 6 months. That's how long the silence lasted. And, to be honest, I didn't go looking for any either. Then one quiet afternoon, I was sitting in the living room when my little girl came up to me, hesitating, like she'd been thinking about what to say for a while. And then she asked, "Dad, can you let my sister come home?" I sat back, looked at her for a moment, and said, "I didn't send her away. She left on her own." The door was always open for her to come back. Not long after that, Sophia joined in. She had been quiet for months, probably hoping the situation would blow over on its own. But now, seeing her younger daughter asking, she found her voice. She also asked if Kara could return. I looked at her and gave her the same response I gave our daughter. "She can stay here, but I'm done being her father." A few days later, Kara showed up at the house. She looked different, not in appearance, but in presence. She asked to talk, and when I agreed, she sat down in front of me, looking like she was carrying months of regret on her back. She apologized, told me she had tried to call, said she messaged me on every platform she could find, but she realized I had blocked her everywhere. And yes, I had. I let her speak as she cried and admitted she made a mistake. I didn't flinch. I wasn't about to open myself up to that again. I looked at her calmly and said, "You can stay, but I won't be responsible for you." She burned that bridge. Then I added, "And if you disrespect me again, you'll be gone for good." She didn't argue, didn't talk back. She just nodded. And in that moment, she probably realized the difference between someone who chose to love her and someone who simply shared her DNA. Eventually, I found out that life with her dad wasn't what she thought it would be. It wasn't a fairy tale she must have imagined when she kept comparing everything I did with what she thought her real father would have done better. The truth is, the man couldn't provide the kind of structure, support, or comfort I had worked so hard to give her. He didn't have the means. And to make things worse, his wife saw her as an extra mouth to feed and an inconvenience. I was told she constantly nagged Kara, reminding her that she was a burden to their already stretched household. Imagine going from a room of your own, a car, and someone trying his hardest to be present, to being treated like you're in the way. I never rubbed it in her face, but I did overhear her once. She was on the phone, probably talking to a friend, and she didn't know I was nearby. I'll never forget what she said. Her voice was low but tired, and she just muttered, "I saw hell over there." That's when I finally understood she had lived the reality she thought she wanted, and it didn't come close to what I had tried to give her. And now here we are, months later. She's back in the house, but not back in my heart. I still feel pain, and I'm still firm in my decision. I haven't given her back any of the things I took. Some lines, once crossed, just don't fade back into nothing. Could that change someday? Maybe. I'm not going to pretend I'm made of stone. She'll have to build her future without them, at least for now. But I'm curious. I'd genuinely like to hear your thoughts. What would you have done? Have you ever been in a situation like this? Maybe not exactly, But something close? Drop your opinion or share your experience in the comments. I read every one. Let's talk about it.